stop at location, wherever the heck that location is. I believe, well, we have 800 yards to go. What do you want me to do? What are you asking me to do? Full service? Hello everybody, welcome back to Train Sim World, where we are back playing the Great Western Express. We're on part 2 of the 4-chapter system here, where we only get one mission literally to learn how to drive the Class 43, also known as the HST, or the HST if I'm pronouncing it in UK speak, I guess you could say. So this mission only requires 500 AP. It means we're not doing a whole lot here, so let's get into it.
This is the Class 43 high-speed train in Great Western Railway livery. Great work on being accepted as a driver for GWE. Today you're going to learn how to take control of this iconic train, get it moving and then bring it to a stop. Start by climbing aboard the locomotive. Enter through the cab door in front of you.
Alright folks, so where we are actually right here, which is just before Acton Main Line, but just after London Paddington. London Paddington, the very end of the line here. Acton Main Line would be somewhere out this way. So we're kind of in between. We're currently at the depot area. The other map is just quite terrible on telling you where we are because you can't read any of it no matter how you zoom in or out. This is why I don't like this map at all. But essentially we're at the Oak, I believe Old Oak Common Depot. At least that's what it says here. And then Oak Common Train Wash. That's essentially where this location is, over by the North Pole Depot. In other words, we're going with the other map. Our job here is to enter the cab of the HST, and we are going to go see what this engine is all about. Well, what do you know? She doesn't even tell me anything. I was expecting a message to pop up, but again, we're using the stairs instead of the ladder. Let's just pop the door open and walk right in.
Take a look around, and when you're ready, have a seat in the driver's chair.
She says to take a look around. What I love about the HST is the fact that there's stuff behind me, but I can't physically go there because there's no way to open this door. If Train Sim World ever does this and the developers do this, I would love them to open the door.
First, you need to get the engine up and running. Start by unlocking the reverser using the master key.
The first thing we're going to do is look at the master key, but that's not actually the first thing we want to do. I'm going to actually pop out so you can kind of see what the train typically looks like. This is our HST Class 43, and if we just kind of zoom in on the outside, so the engineer sits here in this seat where this wonderful handsome person is right now, and the rail car actually begins right here, and this is the part where you can go inside all of the rail cars, and this just continues to replicate until you get to the back where there's another engine in the backside. And if we look at this, if you saw me staring at that door right behind my chair there, that door is supposed to go inside this engine room, and there's another place in here where I can go inside the engine room, but it is modeled, but you can't actually go there no matter whether you go this way or no matter whether you go from inside the car. It says right there, staff access only, no way in, so screw that, right? But if I go back in and I do this one little switch right here that says engine room lights, and then I go back out and I go back to my engine. I was all the way on the other side there for a second, so if I go back to my engine, you notice the engine lights actually work. So it's kind of cool that they modeled the engine light. Who knows where the light's shining from? And if I go to the other side, you can actually, if I go to the top, you can see the engine from the inside as well as lit up. And if I go to the other side, you can definitely see it's lit up. And if I just simply go back to my main engine and go back to camera 3, you can see the light does turn off. Why they model the engine and they don't let you walk in it, I don't even know. That's just dumb. Getting back to our main engine, let's go ahead and turn on the cab light. We'll just flip the light over either on the left or the right side of the engine. By the way, folks, if you need useful numbers, they're all listed right here. Turning on this train, all we have to do is turn on the master key.
Set the reverser handle into the neutral position.
As she said, the reversal handle is off, and we just need to set it to the neutral position.
That alarm is the AWS self-test system. You will need to acknowledge this before continuing. Press the AWS reset button.
I would do it faster, but she probably stopped talking. The next thing we need to do is turn on the engine, but we're going to have a look at this, and she's probably going to tell me a couple other things, as it says in the timetable. Basically, we're looking at engine start, headlights, reverser, etc., but we're going to do a few things before we even get there. For the folks that are looking for the DSD panel, turning this right here will turn it on to normal, and over here's your AWS isolation. Turning this will go from isolated to normal as well. Let's hit that button. Apparently in this game it is already set to normal. Can't use that button down there. In fact, if we go over to the seat here and zoom in a little bit, in case of fire, press the fire bottle button and press the fire button. That's all you got to do. Brake glass and press button. Going back up here again, the AWS of course had triggered there. We have our DRA located here. Our train brake is on. Our parking brake is on. We have a button here that says train supply brightness, and you won't actually see this unless you trigger the train supply button. And if you notice, if I click it, it doesn't quite turn on. If I turn it off and I click it, it won't turn on. It takes kind of a minute to get the train supply to go, and you can press it a few times or you just wait patiently. The train supply, the point of train supply again, is to take the engine that I'm currently here and take this alternative engine back here and combine them together so they're kind of linked up, almost like a DPU and an American Freight. This button over here, this toggle, train supply brightness, only lights up this guy right here, makes it a little bit brighter. It's easier to see when it's bright compared to when it's dim. The one next to it is the windscreen de-icer. I probably don't need that for a training mission. The one next to that is the spare. Alright folks, so the spare, I have not been able to figure out what the heck this spare switch is. Obviously positive refers to plugged in, negative refers to plugged out, right? That's my guess here, is that it's on and it's off. That's just a wild guess there. I don't exactly know what spare is, so if any of you watching happen to know what spare is, please tell me, because there's no instructions in this train. I mean, there's this, but that doesn't tell me anything useful. There's a manual here, but I can't actually read it. Looked up the manual, but nowhere in the manual does it actually talk about the spare. So please tell me what the spare is, because I'm super interested. Wipers, for anyone who might want to know, are located here. The brake demand, temporary isolation fault, and train stop override, TPWS. I finally found information on this. It took me forever here. But the button that says train stop override is actually used to pass a signal at danger with authority, of course being the train in authority to do it. It ignores the TPWS TSS loops for at least 20 seconds, generally for passenger trains, or 60 seconds generally for slower accelerating freight trains, or until the loops have been officially passed, whichever one happens sooner. The AWS system and the TPWS systems are both interlinked, so either of these has initiated a brake application, then that's when your brake demand light will finally flash and turn on. While the temporary isolation and fault system, that lamp will flash only if there's a TPWS system fault, or will show steady illumination if the temporary isolation switch has been activated. So there's another switch located somewhere else in this cab. It's essentially a temporary isolation switch out of reach of the driver's desk. We probably don't have to worry about that because there's no way for me to push any of that button because it's just somewhere else. That's really meant if there is a train being worked on in just terrible situation where multiple singles need to be passed at danger. In the meantime, what else is here? We have the headlight flash button. This is actually kind of useful because if you look there, the headlight and the headlamp will actually blink and flash. This will turn off train supply. We don't need to turn it off. And the general faulter will light up if that's an issue. AWS will light up if that happens to be an issue. The parking brake we will turn off later. The emergency brake we won't need, hopefully ever. If you ever need to call anyone, feel free to contact the Singler here. We have like 3 different phones and ways to do that. We'd only need the one phone. You have your brake system here. On this screen, you can actually see some of the indicators and the things that light up with your speedometer. However, over here, these are all tied to your brake pressure. So you'll notice that I currently have 5.1 in my brake pressure currently, but I also have 7 brake pipe pressure with essentially the reserve pressure of 8.9. The 8.9 is located here in the master reserve, and in the brake pipe it shows 7 on this side. So master reserve is left, brake pipe is right. And then down here is the bar system, which we won't need, at least for the time being. The air brake pipe pressure is the 5.1 that we see here. The air brakes for the HST, by the way, connect to both engines as well as a single engine. I will have to explain that when I get the chance. And then over here, ammeters if anyone needs it. Gauge dimmer, the thing that I can use to finally see all my lit up lights right there in front of me. It wants me to turn on the engine. We have the engine stop start, engine stop, wheel slip button, or wheel slip light, I guess you could say, lock axle light, and the most useless switch right now, the brake test button. This button, while the parking brake is on, this button should work, but it does not actually officially work. It's just a toggle that you can toggle, and nothing happened because we should be able to see our brake test light show up, but nothing shows up when we do anything like that, especially the LED test button. I know it's just not doing anything for me. We have our throttle here, we have our master key, which we already did, reverser there, our AWS here, our horn is there, and if you notice, our horn is actually opposite, especially when you hit the space bar, that high button there, where the network turbo had the space bar as the low button, so we have to remember to hit N and then space. We have another phone, 3 phones in here, and that is about it, unless you care about climate control, which we can definitely turn on and get some fan speed going. In the meantime, let's go ahead and turn on the engine, which will officially activate the AWS system together. Of course, it wants me to just go ahead and set the headlights up. I took forever for that finally to happen.
Things start to get a little more complicated from here, but we'll take it step by step. Set the headlights to day headlamp and markers.
So I'm going to put the angle here so you can kind of see the headlamps down there. If I happen to put this, it won't let me do night mode anymore, but if I happen to put this on day headlight, you can actually see it will toggle it.
Put the train in forwards so we're ready to get moving. Using the reverser again, set the handle into forward.
So let us move this train, assuming we can even move this train. Set reverser to forward.
Nearly there. Now apply some power and get this train moving. Ease the throttle handle into notch 1.
Something interesting is this game actually turned off my parking brake for me. If you ever have to turn off the parking brake, you just have to open this little valve here, hit the button to turn off the parking brake, and it will turn off. I technically cannot move unless I turn off my DRA. So remember to do that, folks, if you use your DRA. Reach a minimum speed of 10 miles an hour. We're almost at the end of the mission, yay! So let's go ahead and go to notch 3 and give ourselves a little bit more power. The HSC is really interesting because it only has 5 notches. I'll even go all the way to notch 5. I might get some wheel slip to happen there, but
I think this is fast enough for now. To maintain our current speed, set the throttle handle back to idle.
I put it back to idle and I'm speeding already. Thanks, lady. But yeah, so go ahead and use the brake handle. Actually, the brake handle is separate, so that means you have to use other keys to turn on your brake handle versus the dual key that the network turbo had. What we're looking to do next, according to this, is we're going to actually manage our speed and then eventually stop at location, wherever the heck that location is. What do you want me to do? What are you asking me to do? Full service? Well, it's asking me to do something with this. Maybe when we pass the mileage there, it should do it. So something you'll notice with the brake pipe pressure, as I was saying there, it should take enough time to fill up the air brakes. I am going to come back to this air brake screen in another mission because I do want to explain how difficult it is to move this train. And you'll notice that when I had the throttle on and I had the power on, I technically could not get my train moving, and it only moved as soon as you reset the throttle. So this particular system has almost like an AWS reset for the throttle and for the brakes, that if you turn on your brakes and you try to turn on the throttle while the brakes are on and aren't fully released, etc., you may not actually move your train, so you may actually have to reset the throttle to finally get your train rolling again. So I assume the lady wants me to go out to the other switch. I'm not exactly sure why she's asking me to do this. There it goes, finally. So it turns out we want to stop all the way out there, 300 yards out. So let's go to the outside cam. Maybe we should go to camera 8 as we kind of bump into a wire there. The HST is a little bit tricky to stop and it requires some finesse and skill. Some of Train Sim World does not include this, and it actually makes the HST a whole lot easier to stop. And this is something I want to come back to in the next mission. But I can't do it yet unless, we stop this train, get our 500 AP, and then move on to the next mission. You notice I only have 15 AP for this, which is really interesting. But yeah, so once we get to the next mission, we'll be able to kind of sit down on the brakes and explain what's going on with the brake pipe pressure. So to come to a stop, if you're using keyboard, you have to use your comma and your semicolon to eventually stop the train. If I just do this on initial, it will slow me down decently enough. I've got no complaint there, and I'm just going to let this train coast until it hits a stop. In fact, it's going to stop itself, so I'm going to have to give it some gas. It finished the mission for me. Fine, it's going to finish the mission for me. That's very weird. I think I broke the game, folks. I think I broke the game. This is actually where it wanted me to stop, so this should be fine. Let's go ahead and full service this thing. That should be enough.
You're ready to head out out there on your own now. If you remember everything I've shown you here, you will do just fine.
I think if you remember everything I told you, maybe you'll be fine, right? Maybe. So I got my gold medal, folks. As usual, like, subscribe. This is actually much longer than the mission took, just because I spent a little bit more time explaining a few things about the HST. We are going to come back to the HST in the next mission, so definitely stay tuned, like, subscribe, leave me comments, and we will see you in the next one, folks. Bye, guys. If you notice, the AWS still turned on. It's not timer-based at all. It's actually location-based. So if you can start to figure out where the location of the TPWS system is, you have a way of dealing with this. Blow the horn. I don't think there's... Yes, there's people on that yellow line. You can see them again all getting run over by my train. They're just standing way too close. I hate when they do that.